He made America cry when Luke Spencer married Laura in television's most watched wedding. A violent love story was altered by an actor who took risks, attracting 30 million people. Few know that behind that renowned performance, Anthony Geary was slowly vanishing, devastated by a figure he begged to kill. Due to severe sadness, he considered quitting everything to avoid his famous role. Anthony Geary, 78, lives in Amsterdam in silent exile from the cameras that formerly captured his every expression. Millions of people knew him as Luke Spencer for 40 years, but he became a prisoner of his own fame. A man dedicated himself to television. Fame doesn't heal. The discomfort becomes more visible. Anthony Geary was born in 1947 in Colville, Utah, a tiny hamlet one may drive past without noticing. Devout Mormons like the Geary family valued humility over recognition and prudence. Russell, his father, created a construction business with calloused hands and a relentless work ethic, arriving home with sweat on his brow. Anthony's mother, Dana, the family's emotional center, taught him how to see people, which would become his secret weapon as an actor. Geary watched movies differently as a child. He made notes, recording directors' names and his own reflections, drawn to villains, the complicated souls that other performers were hesitant to approach. Geary instinctively recognized he wasn't intended for everyday employment in a family without artists. He would recreate movie scenarios in his room, living his characters as if that was the only way to understand the world. At North Summit High School, everyone assumed he'd lead every play. The University of Utah Golden Ticket Drama Scholarship followed. A Colville boy saw it as more than simply a chance to study. He declared he had chosen the hard way. Not safe, yet loyal to himself. Anthony Geary didn't star in Hollywood or television. He started where every professional actor must. On stage, where there are no second chances, no editors to save you, just one time in the spotlight and an audience that will remember your failure. He received the Presidential Award Scholarship for Drama at Utah. Extraordinary honor for a tiny town resident. The true turning point occurred in the late 1960s when Oscar-winning veteran Jack Albertson appeared in The Subject Was Roses. Geary played son. After curtain, Albertson didn't simply applaud politely. His simple question backstage was, "Do you want to tour with me?" Not small talk. It was a chance to leave everything familiar. Geary acted immediately. He drove with Albertson, left Utah in his rearview mirror, and never looked back. He visited Los Angeles on that tour, a city that doesn't welcome newcomers, especially those without connections or Hollywood looks. Geary took the risk and went straight to live theater. Over 50 plays in his early years taught him to harness emotion and keep audiences with his eyes, not showy words. He learned new techniques every night on stage, becoming one of television's most dynamic character actors. He gradually moved to television with modest roles in Room 2222 and The Streets of San Francisco. Geary never discarded the minor pieces. He gave every character dimension, making them more memorable than the leads. A single appearance on All in the Family in 1971 as Roger, a gay man Archie Bunker suspected, altered everything. Geary didn't blink when LGBTQ+ issues were banned from American television. He didn't make Roger a joke or symbol. He showed a real person without cliches or grandstanding. That performance was one of the first to humanize a gay character on TV. Anthony Geary discreetly pioneered such representation. Anthony Geary's 1978 General Hospital contract was 13 weeks. Luke Spencer was supposed to be a minor character who would depart after a few episodes. Instead, he became a cultural phenomenon unmatched by daytime television. However, this soap opera success story was unique. It was controversial and morally complex, making viewers uncomfortable. Luke Spencer completely upended soap operas. Luke had a murky past, an unstable temperament, and was distinguished by violence from the start, unlike other series with elegant, perfect main characters. Luke brutally sexually assaulted Laura Weber, a beloved female character. Logic dictates that should have finished his story. Instead, audiences were drawn to him, bewildered, enraged, and unable to turn away. Luke Spencer survived darkness thanks to Anthony Geary. Geary embodied the role, providing invisible wounds and a troubled dimension the script didn't ask for. The crowd didn't forgive Luke, but they understood him. The emotional depth Geary put into every scene gave us that insight. The writers had to rewrite the role after Geary's breathtaking performance. Luke went from villain to something new on TV. Not a hero or monster, but a changeable man. General Hospital and American television were forever impacted by that change. Luke Spencer inspired every complicated male character afterwards, making Tony Soprano and Don Draper possible. Luke became the first American television antihero, and Geary redefined a leading man. In 1981, 30 million Americans watched Luke and Laura's wedding, more viewers than that year's Oscars. It became a cultural event, not merely a soap opera. Anthony Geary's great success cost him decades of regret. Anthony Geary discovered that success can be a prison. His 8 Daytime Emmy Awards for playing Luke Spencer remains a record, a monument to his talent and the industry's appreciation. But each prize and recognition raised the walls of his golden cage. People always saw Luke after Geary left General Hospital, whether on TV or in cinema. A public that had chosen who he was didn't care about his enormous theater career, dozens of other productions, or dramatic range. Any role other than Luke Spencer faded before it started. The character that made him famous also rendered him invisible. Geary stated, "I don't want to be Luke forever." However, when he returned to film, that was the sole role expected. Most performers dream of playing one legendary character. The loop closed for Geary. He was most constrained at his most successful place. He repeatedly declined the part, appealing to producers to kill the character. But the audience wouldn't allow it. The network forbade it. Hollywood wouldn't accept it. Few knew the truth behind those intelligent eyes and deeply nuanced performances that enthralled America for decades. Anthony Geary was slowly vanishing, devoured by a character he could never escape. Luke Spencer's success made Anthony Geary, the genuine man, withdraw from the world. Anthony Geary was one of America's most famous faces for over 40 years on television, yet he remained a private guy. Geary was almost invisible as his co-stars attended award presentations with their families and lived in the spotlight. He never attended prominent Hollywood parties, flaunted romances, or had a love controversy in the public. His dating history, where he resided, and if he had ever loved anyone were unknown for decades. The public became increasingly intrigued about his personal life as they learned less. Some said he was painfully shy. Others believed he had loved and lost someone, and many questioned his sexuality. It was whispers and rumors until February 2025, when a single Instagram post broke 4 decades of silence. Amsterdam resident Claudio Gamma tweeted a snapshot of a casual pizza gathering. The caption was simple but revolutionary. "Tony and I married 6 years ago in February after meeting 30 years earlier in February. Celebrate 2 anniversaries." Just like that, the truth revealed. Anthony Geary married his same-sex spouse in 2019 after 3 decades of silent cohabitation. Somehow nobody knew. No media fanfare, public confirmation, or expensive celebrity wedding. The life Geary chose was shown in Claudio's posts. Small Amsterdam home, private dinners with friends, fine wine, and Max the cat. No scripts, no cameras, no performances. 2 honest people living together. Fans were startled by Geary's sexuality and his ability to keep a serious relationship covert throughout his career. Looking back, everything made sense. He avoided media attention, never brought visitors to premieres, and relocated to Amsterdam, a city more tolerant and free from Hollywood scrutiny. The 30-year romance needed no public validation to be amazing. A man who had spent his career as someone else had finally found a place to be himself. Anthony Geary found happiness, but his connections with artists, especially Laura actress Jeannie Francis, remained problematic. Audiences believed they were close off-screen for decades, but they were not. Geary rarely shared feelings, shunned social engagements, and rarely let others into his private life. Francis, on the other hand, was more open and emotional, which often caused them a clash. They had quiet arguments about how to portray their characters, especially during Luke and Laura's problematic early relationship, when a screenplay required them to represent a violent romance. Geary had no problem criticizing producers and writers because he valued artistic integrity. He was cold and rational, which left Frances feeling isolated, especially when she had to connect emotionally with a generation of young female viewers who saw Laura as their representative on film. Besides their scenes, they hardly spoke for years. Geary, who feared emotional entanglements and personal expectations beyond work, may have chosen that isolation for survival. After shooting, he didn't attend cast parties or crew lunches. Anthony Geary would disappear into the shadows once the cameras stopped filming, leaving Luke Spencer on the soundstage. Geary and Frances slowly reconciled years later, after leaving General Hospital and free from the demands of preserving their renowned images. Later, Frances reflected, "We learned forgiveness. Instead of a warm embrace between lifelong friends, it was a somber acknowledgement between two artists who had created television history together but then moved on to different worlds." Anthony Geary never lacked feelings and quiet. It was about surviving a talking industry. His definition of friendship, sometimes just a knowing glance given after years apart, not extended conversations. Anthony Geary left General Hospital quietly, as he did throughout his tenure. No goodbye press conference, heartbreaking last day on set, or legendary send-off. He disappeared as he had always existed in entertainment. Meek, exhausted, and discreet. His customary stillness hid a sad reality he wouldn't tell until later. His body gave out. Geary experienced a major back condition in his final years on the show, limiting his mobility. Standing for hours on set, moving constantly, and executing action scenarios dozens of times a day had taken a toll. Surgery, months of physical therapy, and facial stretches were required when he could hardly get out of bed. The worst blow for an actor who had lived only through his plays was that his body had betrayed the passion that had defined his life. Geary said he didn't leave Luke because he was bored. "I left Luke because I was drained physically and emotionally." He refused to show Luke Spencer limping through scenes as he aged. He couldn't bear to leave behind a worn-out version of the character that had meant so much to so many viewers after thousands of episodes. So he left silently, not because time had passed, but because his strength was exhausted. Anthony Geary now lives in Amsterdam in a humble property that is nothing like a Hollywood mansion. No reality TV cameras, social media, or public relevance efforts. Only Claudio Gama, his 30-year partner Max the Cat, and a few infrequent friends. Geary reads instead of acting or pursuing new parts, especially Shakespeare, whom he had mastered on stage before television success. He devours books, writes unpublished scripts, cooks with his partner, and lives at his own speed. It was a chosen lifestyle that fit his ferocious independence and deep privacy, even during his most public years. Geary no longer acts because he no longer needs the spotlight that exalted and imprisoned him, not because there are no opportunities. After decades of being Luke Spencer to millions of people, he had found something more priceless than fame: the freedom to be Anthony Geary. His decision to move away may seem like loss in a world obsessed with celebrity and continual visibility, but it may be the greatest personal accomplishment: the fortitude to define success on his own terms. Anthony Geary, 78, prefers silence, genuineness, and calm to fame. His disappearance from TV isn't a tragedy. Unfortunately, it took him a long time to realize that the life he desired was the one he had been living silently behind the character that made him famous but nearly ruined him. Anthony Geary lived as television's first anti-hero, complex, conflicted, broken, but redemptive. He may have given his most honest performance. Only 0.4% of viewers subscribe. Let's fix your long stay.